So we are in the new Interpretive Center at Angel Mound. We did a complete redo of it. Everything that was there in the past has gone, and we've put a new experience in here for our visitors to get a new perspective on the mounds.
This is the first new exhibit installed at Angel Mounds in the last 20 years. And it's the first time it's being told from the native perspective rather than the archaeologist perspective. And the archaeologist perspective will be included in there because it helps tell the story. But we've consulted with numerous tribes that are possibly descended of the people that lived here to get their perspective on what the site means to them and what it would have meant to the people back in those days as well.
You know, in the past it's always been just kind of centered around artifacts, but this is because it's a tribal peoples and a living tribal peoples. It's showing people today and how we are actively involved in our communities and how we're bringing, keeping our traditions alive. And I think that's really important to see. So you have the present, and then you can go out and to look at the mounds and see the past.
To just show amazing new pieces throughout our exhibit, not only here in Angel Mounds, but honestly throughout the whole system. New art is something that we always reach for as an interpretive tool because it adds another layer, it adds a modern face on things. And so in this case, it allowed us to offer a lot of fabric, which does not survive that long. So there's some practical things in there, but really saying, you know, here's a modern take, here's some inspiration, here's what things either could have looked like or what modern people are still inspired by in creating their new works. Previous experience here at Angel Mounds was fairly low tech. It was more diorama based. We don't reach for technology all the time, but in this case, it was really important to have some elements like a lot of video. All the video was commissioned for this new experience. Our map table over here gives you a new perspective on the mounds that you couldn't get before and shows some of those alignments.
One of the impetus for this was several years ago, archaeoastronomers began looking at the site and how the mounds are placed. And now we know we have a summer solstice alignment, a winter solstice alignment, a Milky Way alignment. We know where the moon's going to be at its farthest northern point and its farthest southern point now. And it's not just a vacant field anymore. We know this thing is still working after 1,000 years, and so that got us thinking more and more about the tribal perspective of this place and what it meant to them and what those alignments and all that meant to people then and now as well.
Well, the cosmology is really important because I think people think of Indians as the bare-breasted warrior riding across the plains, and seeing the fact that these mounds are more than just mounds of dirt. They actually were able to predict the seed planting seasons. They studied the stars, and that they're actually kind of calendrical systems. So that's important. It puts the fact that Indian people knew science and math and how to lay things out, and as well as the idea that these were habitation zones where people were growing up and raising their children just like they do today. This gives us an opportunity to learn about our past. I mean, it's a reciprocal kind of exchange where we're trading our tribal knowledge and what we have survived, our knowledge that we've survived with.
This place is important for American history to understand the great depth of time that we had in American history. So Native American history goes back, thousands and thousands of years. So Angel was established by about 1100 AD, and it kind of hit its fluorescence at about 1250 AD. And by 1450, people had kind of moved on. They had different life ways, as many folks do. So I think one of the most important things is how well this place is preserved and the opportunity that gives us.
We have a large interactive map in the middle of the room now that will talk about these alignments and how the property developed. And it's all, touch-based, so you can get different components of what the map's all about. We'll talk about the alignment in another section of the site. We have modern or contemporary Native American artists things on display that they were inspired by the site to create these items also. And we'll still have the artifacts that people are coming to see as well.
I encourage people to come here because they're going to see something really different, especially if they had been here before. They're going to see a very different presentation.
I say it's a touchstone to the past. I've worked at many historic sites over the years, but this one has a vibe, a feel to it. I tell someone there's a spirit to the place, and you can actually sense that when you're out on the site.
I have to say that this museum, Angel Mounds, the historic site, that I go to a lot of archaeological sites, and a lot of them are orphans. They're not well funded, they're not well attended, but I think the community thinks of this as part of their own. And it is well attended, it is active, and when I look at other sites where they're having there's financial struggles, and their exhibits are out of date and things like that, that it's a real jewel that you have in your community. And I think that's, it's unique. And I like to see it happen more often.